Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have the biggest bullish catalyst in Bitcoin's entire price history potentially coming between the months of April 2024 with the halving and March 2024 with the deadline, the ultimate deadline for the Bitcoin ETFs. That will be, again, the biggest bullish catalyst in Bitcoin's entire price history, provided the ETFs aren't approved or denied before that point. Now, I know people get sick of hearing, oh, it's the biggest thing ever, it's the biggest event ever. I know how YouTube titles work, I know how YouTube thumbnails work, I'm part of the YouTube community here with cryptocurrency, but I don't resonate with the clickbait. I'm not clickbaiting you. I'm being dead set serious. This is a huge thing. I've compacted the video as much as possible. It is still a long video. There's a lot of information to dig into, but I hope you guys find it useful. Without further ado, guys, biggest bullish catalyst in Bitcoin's price history potentially occurring between April and March 2024. Let's get into it. Okay guys, there's going to be a lot of talking in this video. There's charts to show as well, but a lot of it is talking, a lot of it's going through news articles. What are we looking at? We're looking at the Bitcoin 4-year cycle chart. We're looking at a chart on Bitcoin that has two developing trends which predict when the next all-time high would be. We're looking at a 3-day bear case scenario chart on Bitcoin, and we're tying that into relevance to the main video topic. And then we're looking at short term of Bitcoin, again, tying it into relevance to the main video topic, looking at a blank chart to explain and summarize what's actually happened with Bitcoin recently and why it's been happening exactly. In fact, we'll look at that first and foremost. We have 3 separate articles to bring up, well, 2 articles and then a halving countdown clock. So, interesting kind of different video topic today, but overall it is tying into the main point, which is that there is a massive bullish catalyst that is potentially coming for Bitcoin, and at the latest point that could come, it could come right next to the halving, which will lead to an exponentially bullish period of time starting in 2024. So we're looking into that exactly, precisely what is going to be happening there to the best of our knowledge. Before we do any of that, guys, check out the Bitget exchange. This is a KYC exchange for anyone other than people in the USA and Canada and Singapore. If you're from any other country in the world, you can sign up to this exchange using my referral link for a 15% trading fee discount. Get onto this exchange. It's extremely cheap. It's the exchange I personally use. And then I also use BingX when I'm trading non-KYC. And this is an exchange you can sign up from anywhere in the world with just an email address and password. Again, that's the BingX exchange. We have an exclusive promotion with them right now for this spinning the wheel lucky draw event. Sign up using my referral link, get a 15% trading fee discount, and get access to this event. This is a non-KYC exchange. Lines up the value of cryptocurrency perfectly. Go ahead and do that. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get into the video. So I'm going to be explaining a couple of things on this blank chart before we even get into the main topic. What has Bitcoin been doing recently? And this goes more in depth than you might think it goes, right? Well, it's been consolidating, okay? We have a couple of interesting price points on Bitcoin. First and foremost, if we go to the weekly chart, which is really what I want to look at, right? Because the weekly chart is basically gives us the best view of what Bitcoin's actually doing. Because on the weekly chart, we have a definitive, very, very clear line at 24.5K. As you can see, that is a line we rejected for resistance on 2 occasions, 3 occasions even, and bounced off support on 1 occasion. Now, that line actually goes from 24.5K to 25.2K at the top of the wicks, as you can see. And so between those 2 red lines, we have kind of the major buying zone for Bitcoin. That will not our buying zone, right? But definitely a major support zone that a lot of people have been buying at. Otherwise, we wouldn't have bounced off it here. We wouldn't have bounced off it on 4 weekly candles. We wouldn't have rejected from it on a couple of occasions, in the past. This is the major dividing line for Bitcoin. Really, I mean, quite literally speaking, below these red lines is back into the kind of the trenches, and above these red lines, we're in a decent spot. So it really is this line in the sand for Bitcoin between 24.5 and 25.2. But you guys know that by now, right? That's not new. We've been talking about that for a long period of time, and in fact, you're probably getting exhausted about hearing about it, but that's just what it is, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because we have seen massive consolidation above this zone, right? We've seen massive consolidation starting from, right, all the way back here in March 13th, 2023. We've seen consolidation above this zone. That's 6 months, right? 6 months of relentless consolidation in a relatively small range, right? On a larger scale. His range actually isn't that big. We've spent most of the time above 24.5K, and hence this range is actually only 25% high, right? So it's a very small range to spend 6 months in. It's very rare that Bitcoin spends 6 months in a range that small. even going back to, between June and November, that's 5 months, right? In that 5-month period, the vast majority of the price action happened in a 43% range. And that was 5 months. And that was during the bear market. That's when Bitcoin was meant to be dead, right? So this range is almost half the size and it's gone a month extra long. So, there's no surprise to me at all that the market has been boring to people, because it has been boring. Nothing's really happened. We've been stuck in, I suppose the saying is, I don't know what exactly is, but it's between a rock and a hard place, right? It's basically, we've been stuck on Bitcoin. We've been stuck between basically 32K, which is the upside line, and 24.5K. And there's really been not much wiggle room. And during this period of time, Bitcoin's done something very interesting. First and foremost, right, this chart over here displays the long-term versus short-term holder threshold for Bitcoin. How many long-term holders are there and how many short-term holders? As soon as we entered this range, right, now this is a moving average, so as soon as we entered this range, the long-term holder supply really started to increase. People all of a sudden were not selling. Okay, yes, it was delayed, but that's because that's how this chart is measured, right? You need to be able to distinguish between long-term and short-term holders. There are parameters for that. And so basically, as soon as we entered this price range above 24.5K, the amount of long-term holders on Bitcoin increased dramatically. What you'll also note is that around the time we entered this range, that's when the Bitcoin spot ETF discussions really started kicking off. And that is the topic of this video, the Bitcoin spot ETF discussions. How is that relevant to Bitcoin? Well, as I just said, Bitcoin spot ETF discussions started around the entry of this range, right? The consolidation that happened in this range led to a massive increase in long-term holders on Bitcoin, and notably as well, the volume on Bitcoin. Just look at the bottom of the screen here, the volume on Bitcoin, at least on the Bitcoin Tether US chart. Well, I mean, that's obviously biased to a certain extent, but it remains true on most charts. The volume just absolutely bloody died as soon as we entered this range. Okay, so you have to think about what I just said. Okay, as we entered this range, okay, volatility's been low, volume's been historically low, and the long-term holder supply on Bitcoin has increased, all in the meantime as the ETF news, the ETF rumors and news, whatever it may be, have been sparking up and gaining massive traction. So basically what that tells us, to a trained analyst, what it says is this, right? To a rookie, it might say, oh, Bitcoin's weak. That's not the case at all. If Bitcoin was weak, it wouldn't have held this support line for 6 months. I'm not saying Bitcoin's not going to go down. I'm saying that if Bitcoin was weak, it would have dropped down immediately, and you're not holding the line for 6 months. That just simply doesn't make sense. It's simply illogical to assume that. What it does mean is this. It means that because of the ETF rumors, most likely, okay, because of the ETF rumors, it's hard to say exactly, but I'm going to assume that because of the ETF, not really rumors, news, I should say, news and deadlines approaching and all of the hype that's around that, people have gone and they've made themselves a new bullish narrative, right? Before, the bullish narrative was simply the 4-year cycle. It's simply Bitcoin goes up at a macro scale. Now there is a new bullish narrative. Bitcoin spot ETF is the bullish narrative. They've seen that occur. They've seen the spot ETF news come up and they've held their Bitcoin, which explains why long-term holders have increased, and it also explains why volume has decreased. People aren't trading anymore. People are holding on. They're waiting for these ETFs to be approved or denied before they make any major financial decision. And the ETFs right now are the main topic for Bitcoin. If you go to Twitter, you go to Google, you go to YouTube, anything, every day, Bitcoin spot ETF, what's going on? That's the big topic. That's why people are holding onto their coins. That's why volume is down. That's why volatility is down. No one is trading right now. Only traders are trading, right? Most people aren't traders. They're holding. They're waiting for the approval or denial of the spot ETF, and that explains why this range has been held for such a long period of time. And hence we can assume that, well, okay, the Bitcoin spot ETF really is the big thing right now. And we don't even need to assume it, right? We know that to be the case because if you look at what happened last week, all right, look at what happened last week. Let's delete this chart. What happened last week, okay? Last week, we saw Grayscale. I'm going to bring up articles in a second. All right, let's see what articles we've got here. Grayscale victory against the SEC. We'll speak about it here, then we'll speak about it in a chart. We saw Grayscale basically have a lawsuit against the SEC, right? Who declined or denied their spot ETF. They filed a lawsuit and they said that basically you have no reason, they said it to the SEC, you have no reason to deny our ETF. They won the lawsuit. What does it mean? It means that Grayscale won a lawsuit against the SEC. In the lawsuit, they said you have no reason to deny our ETF, and that means that chances of approval rise massively. Okay, they won the lawsuit. So the ETF was rejected on unreasonable grounds. They won that lawsuit. Now it's not approved yet, okay? But even just winning the lawsuit, right, which didn't even lead to an approval, even just winning the lawsuit pumped Bitcoin. right? 9% in a matter of less than 8 hours. Even just winning the lawsuit, that wasn't even the approval of the ETF. That was just winning a lawsuit that is part of the approval of the ETF. 9% in 8 hours. Now, a lot of people think, oh, 9%, that's nothing. Guess what? If you think 9% is nothing, you are massively desensitized to moves, because that is the entire stock market annual average return in 8 hours on Bitcoin, which isn't actually very much of a small asset, right? So 9% move to the upside just on a rumor that it might be accepted in the future based on a lawsuit win, which isn't even the same thing as it being accepted, okay? And then when the ETFs got delayed, now I don't know if I have an article for this, let me see. I don't think I do. But when the ETFs got delayed, I'm talking the rest of the applications. I'm talking BlackRock. I'm talking, Cathie Wood's, hedge fund. I'm talking all those big ones, right? When they got delayed, right, we went downwards in a matter of a couple days, basically. 10%. We went all the way back down. All of the gains we made on this massive move of the rumor of it potentially being approved, right, went upwards massively. We went right back down on a delay, not even a denial, not even, it being denied, being delayed until October 17th and October 16th for the next decision. This proves, right, this volatility we saw that shouldn't have ever existed, only existed because of the news articles, which is very, very rare, right? Bitcoin generally never really moves massively because of news. It's not really how it works. News is generally a catalyst for the underlying TA to play out. There was no underlying TA here. That was simply news. So Bitcoin moved dramatically, not even because of approval or denial, just based on random kind of news articles or lawsuits or delays, right? Not even approval or denial. Just to put into context, right? We haven't seen, I want to really make sure people know this. We have not seen a 9% move to the upside in such a short period of time on Bitcoin for all the way back here since June? 3 months? We haven't seen it for 3 months. Even then, you could say it took longer. Right, so this is big. This is really big stuff. That's a huge candle, a green candle on the 4 hourly chart here, and that's because of the ETF. Not even the approval denial. That's just ETF news that came out, right? So now what we have is a situation in which we understand, it's been proven to us, not only via my speculation on long-term charts, it's been proven to us, on long-term charts that, based on my speculation, that volumes decrease because people are waiting for the ETF. Long-term holders have gone up because people are waiting for the ETF, okay? Volatility's decreased because people are waiting for the ETF. It's also been proven on short-term charts now that, okay, look, even just random news updates regarding the ETF that won't even lead to their direct approval or denial have led to massive moves to the upside and the downside in very short periods of time on short term. People are clearly watching the news regarding this thing. You go to Twitter, you go YouTube, you go anything. They're all talking about the ETF. So it's a big deal, and that's what it proves us. So now we can look into, well, when will it be accepted? When will it be denied? Will it be accepted or denied, right? The ETF, that being approved or denied. Well, I mean, I would lean towards them being approved. Okay, just based on what's happened with, I don't even need to really look into these articles that much, to be honest. They don't really tell us anything that I haven't really spoken about, but I just want to briefly show you them. I mean, these are articles that are interesting, basically looking into, Grayscale sees no relating objections for Bitcoin ETF approval. Basically, looking into what's happened with Grayscale specifically. Obviously, before that happened, it's been speculative, but there's a couple reasons why I think the ETFs will be approved, right? Grayscale obviously won their lawsuit. There is now no reasonable reason for the SEC to deny disallow the ETF approval. It shouldn't happen. There's no reason for it at this point in time. Now, obviously, they can make up some, separate reason if they want to. They are the SEC, but that's what's happened right now. So that raises the chances of them being approved. And even on a surface level, even without that lawsuit, BlackRock, which is one of the ETF applicants, obviously one of the biggest I think the biggest hedge fund in the world, actually, if not Vanguard, one of those two, big hedge funds, right, have approved for an ETF, have been applying for an ETF, for Bitcoin spot ETF, and they have actually made over, I think, 554, I could be wrong on that number exactly, but it's in the 500s, applications for spot ETFs in the past, and they've only been denied one single time. The point being, they do not apply for ETFs that they think are going to be denied. So, we have a pretty strong case now that these ETFs will eventually be approved. Now, when is the latest they can be approved? Right now, the deadline is October 16th or 17th, but realistically, the SEC can push the approval back. They can delay it all the way until March next year. Now, that's an interesting date, right? This is where we get into the long term. March next year. So, you could say, okay, they're likely to be approved, but it could take as long as March next year until they get approved. Let's assume it does. What's going on next year? The halving. The halving is next year. Now, let's look into the 4-year cycle, then we'll look into that. We'll expand on that point a bit further, right? Okay, 4-year cycle on Bitcoin. 4-year cycle is a date range trend on Bitcoin, kicked off by the halving. Okay, 2012, 2016, 2020, kicked off by the halving that leads to bull market, bear market, 2 years of consolidation. That's 4 years, right? 1 year bull market, 1 year bear market, 2 years consolidation. It's happened 3 times. It's been perfect every single time. There's 5 micro trends within the larger trend. They've played out to the T. Even in the last bear market, with all the rumors about, oh yeah, everything's going to collapse, everything's going to die, recession. Even during all of that, right, we still bottomed out perfectly to the week as per the 4-year cycle. So 4-year cycle is very, very valid. And the next halving, which is what kicks off the 4-year cycle, right? Realistically, according to the 4-year cycle, the market should start to get good after the halving. The next halving on Bitcoin is estimated to be around April 2024, okay? So, with the halving, which kicks off the 4-year cycle, the only long-term macro trend that has been around on Bitcoin for the entire price history since the first halving, with the halving in April 2024, and now, as we know, with the potential ETF approvals, okay, kicked back to as late as March 2024, we have a very, very interesting couple of months there. We have March 2024. Right, we know for a fact now, based on long-term analysis, based on short-term analysis, that ETFs are huge for Bitcoin. It's one of the main bullish narratives right now. They can be approved in March 2024. We then have a separate, massive bullish narrative for Bitcoin as per the Bitcoin halving, just 1 month later. So in that 2-month period, what are we going to be witnessing? We're going to be witnessing one of the biggest bullish catalysts that Bitcoin has ever seen. Plain and simple. Before we dive into the next part of the video, I want to quickly look at Wolves of Crypto VIP on Telegram. You can check out the VIP information and results group, which is what I'm looking at right now, for free in the video description. It will show you what you get access to with VIP, the prices. It will show you the trading results in PDF format for every single trade we've ever taken there, with a 79.12% win rate. That's 4 out of every 5 trades reaching profit. Exceptional stuff. Go ahead and check out the VIP group. You're missing out if you're not part of it. Let's get into the rest of the video. So we know now that there's going to be a huge catalyst for Bitcoin, potentially, right? They could approve or deny the ETFs before that point, but we know likely they're going to be approved, and we know how the SEC behaves. Generally speaking, they delay as far as possible. There is a chance that it takes us until March 2023. 2024, obviously this is based on speculation, but if they do take until March 2024, they're really putting us in a very good situation for Bitcoin, because that's going to be a double bullish narrative in a 2-month period. So realistically, whether they're approved now in October or whether they're approved in March 2024, it doesn't actually matter on a long-term scale. It just means that perhaps we'll see boring market until then, but when that actually does occur, when we do see the approval, regardless of when it is, if it is in March, for example, that's a massive couple of months of Bitcoin with the halving and the ETF approval. But what's going to happen until that point? That's the main question. And basically anything, right? Because the 4-year cycle is based on date range trends. It's not based on price points. We can go wherever the hell we want, other than below 15K, basically. As long as Bitcoin doesn't go below 15K, we're still valid within the 4-year cycle, and we can do whatever we want. Now, my, macro observations that I've made on Bitcoin price points, which are observations, not predictions, because we don't have enough data to make a predictions, rely on Bitcoin being at least 39K at the halving. So as long as we're at 39K at the halving, and that, again, that's not a prediction, that's an observation in a larger formula. It's very important you understand that. But if we are at 39K at the halving on Bitcoin, and I'll look into that more in the future, I've looked into it in the past as well. If we're at 39K at the halving, our 120K Bitcoin top observation for 2025 Q4 remains valid. Again, observation, not prediction. It's based on limited data. So basically, I'm just concerned about Bitcoin being at 39K at the halving. Anything else I don't really care about, to be honest. Anything Bitcoin does between now and the halving, it doesn't really bother me at all. Yeah, look, it's not good if we drop below too much, but we've already formed a macro bearish structure. We've already got this head and shoulders for candlestick formation. We've already got a scenario in which we're following 2019, in which case, we would be going down for another 6 months, potentially even 9 months if we're including COVID. That would bring us, in a downwards trend for Bitcoin until December or potentially even March. And again, March, coincidentally or not so coincidentally, lines up with the potential ETF approval. But the point is, even this bear case is not really valid at this point. We still need a breakdown below 24.5K before anything is valid. So right now, Bitcoin's in a no man's land territory. It's in a rock between a hard place. It's on the edge of a cliff, really, but it hasn't really made any decisions yet, right? It's on the edge of a cliff, but it hasn't jumped, and so there's no real objective way to say, oh, Bitcoin's definitively going up or it's definitively going down, as of yet, because we're still holding 24.5K. If we lose that, then okay, yeah, cool, we're going down. But it's not like that at this point, unfortunately. It's not that simple. But what I can say is this, Bitcoin just needs to hold 15K. And obviously, more in depthly, it needs to hold at least 18.3K because that's really the dividing range between 15K. So as long as we're above 18.3K on Bitcoin, realistically, we're not actually in real proper danger. It depends what you mean by danger, right? But what I mean is like we're not going to break the 4-year cycle, and that's all we really need to hold right now. And we know that because we've just looked into what's going on for Bitcoin. We looked into the ETFs, we looked into how major they are, we've looked into the halving. But I actually don't think we'll get that low even because, look, we've managed to hold up for 6 months on Bitcoin, a very low volatility, very low volume based on this ETF narrative, and I don't think we're going to drop down that easily on Bitcoin. I just don't. If the narrative remains as high value as it is now, unless they get denied, I don't think that Bitcoin will see any dramatic risks to the 4-year cycle. Perhaps 24.5K gets thrown into question. Perhaps we lose that, but I don't think that's major. I think realistically it's major objectively, but I think, it's reasonable to assume that if we break that doesn't mean it's the end of the world for Bitcoin is what I mean. Anyway, I've spoken about this so much in previous videos, and I've kind of confused myself by even bringing it up because it's kind of irrelevant to the video topic. The point I'm trying to make is this, okay? We just need to be at a reasonable price at the halving. And with the ETF approval, all right, which is likely at this point, okay, at the latest occurring in March and the halving being in April, that would likely lead to a price pump, and that means we will likely be at a reasonable price at the halving, which means we are very likely for one of these trends, which I'll bring up in a second, to play out. These trends are developing trends on Bitcoin, okay? There's two of them. There's one developing trend, which is the more optimistic one, and there's one more pessimistic, but they both end up being bullish, okay? The optimistic trend is this. Bitcoin generally sees a 300 and something % gain between the bottom and the halving. Okay, 300 and something % gain between the bottom and the halving, or the pre-halving peak. If we see that again, we'll be seeing at least a 63K Bitcoin, or at least an all-time high on Bitcoin, 69K Bitcoin, by the halving. Okay, that's the optimistic trend. Now, some would say that's ridiculous. I'd probably say that's unlikely as well. But the more pessimistic trend, which is still bullish, is that Bitcoin sees 1,100 days roughly between top and break of all-time high. All right, and if we see that again, we will be seeing an all-time high on Bitcoin by November 2024. I personally think that's very achievable. With the halving and the ETF approvals in the start of 2024, by November 2024, I see it as more than reasonable that we'll be above an all-time high on Bitcoin. So one of these trends is going to play out most likely, whether it be an all-time high before the halving or whether it be an all-time high before November 2024. One of these trends will be true most likely on Bitcoin unless the 4-year cycle breaks, which is very unlikely. It just depends on which one is going to be true. So what can Bitcoin do before these events? What can Bitcoin do before March and April 2024 with the major ETF event and the halving? Well, it can do whatever the hell it wants, really. I mean, that's the answer. It can do whatever the hell it wants. Obviously, it's not ideal if it goes too low. For example, if it breaks down below this yellow line down here, that's really not ideal because that's really dangerous. That's when we get into this range here and we start making new lows. But provided we're above this yellow line, it really genuinely can do whatever it wants. And that's the simple reality. So the main point I'm trying to make in this video is this. There is a macro trend on Bitcoin 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle has its halving in 2024, April, okay? That's generally a bullish catalyst. That generally kicks off the bull market. Now, just before that April halving, there could be ETF approvals for Bitcoin, multiple ETF approvals for Bitcoin. It has been proven that ETFs lead to dramatic volatility on short term, and it's been proven that ETFs have led to dramatic alterations in market movements on long term. Therefore, they're a big thing. And so the ETF approval before the halving, if it does occur, will be a massive bullish catalyst, along with the halving being a bullish catalyst in itself. Basically, in that period of time between March and April 2024, if we don't see the approval before that point, we will be seeing one of the biggest bullish catalysts that has ever existed in Bitcoin's entire price history. Guys, with that said, I'll end the video there. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Check out the Crypto Academy, Become a Trader 10-unit course. All the information for the course that teaches you how to trade, hence the name Become a Trader, is on the website. You can find in the description below. You can check out the unit topics, what we offer, including slides, videos, and worksheets. And you can throw us an email at the email address cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com. Check out the VIP group and check out Bitget Exchange and BingX Exchange. Without further ado, we'll end it there. Thanks, guys. Cheers.